Elaki was the kind of girl who warmed every heart in the village of Tunda. Though she came from a life of struggle, there was a quiet strength in her eyes and a softness in her voice that made everyone admire her. Her father had passed away when she was just a teenager, leaving her with nothing but a small piece of land and an old, crumbling hut. Yet she never complained. Every morning before the sun rose, Elaki would tie her wrapper, pick up her farming tools, and head to the fields her father once tilled. She worked alone, her hands rough from labor, her body tired, but her heart full of hope. While other girls her age dreamed of fancy clothes and big city life, Elaki only dreamed of putting food on her table and keeping her late father's land alive. The villagers would often whisper, "She's too good for this life," because even in her poverty, Elaki never turned away a hungry neighbor, never refused to help someone in need, and never asked for anything in return. If she had 2 yams, she would give one away. That was Elaki, the girl who gave everything, even when she had nothing. Her clothes were old, her shoes were worn out, but her spirit shined brighter than gold. Children loved her, elders respected her, and many wondered how someone so poor could carry herself with so much grace and dignity. But Elaki didn't care for praise or admiration. Her heart was simple, pure. She only wanted peace, love, and the joy of living a good life. Yet behind her gentle smile was a heart that had seen pain. She missed her father deeply. She often sat under the old baobab tree, where he used to tell her stories about love, life, and resilience. She held onto his words like treasure, believing that one day, maybe, just maybe, something good would come her way. She hoped that someone would see her, not for her poverty, but for her heart, someone who would love her truly, without conditions. But Elaki had no idea that her life was about to take a turn, a twist so deep it would test everything she believed in, because love was coming. But it would not come with roses and kindness. It would come wearing the mask of a stranger who would enter her life with empty pockets and hungry eyes, only to fill his belly with her sacrifices and crush the heart that gave him everything. Elaki's story was just beginning, and the path ahead was filled with pain, betrayal, and a revenge so silent yet so powerful that it would shake the village of Tunda to its very core. It was a quiet evening in Tunda when Curo arrived, his clothes dusty, his feet swollen from walking miles without rest. He was a stranger, unknown to anyone in the village, and from the looks of him, life had not been kind. His eyes, dark and tired, carried the weight of struggles untold. The villagers watched him from a distance, whispering among themselves, hesitant to approach. Strangers were rarely welcomed with open arms in Tunda. Curo moved slowly through the village, stopping at the market, where the scent of roasted maize filled the air. His stomach growled, but he had nothing to offer in exchange for food. He reached into his torn pocket, hoping to find a forgotten coin, but there was nothing. Hunger clawed at his inside, and exhaustion pressed on his shoulders. He knew he had to find shelter soon, or collapse in the middle of the road. As fate would have it, Elaki was passing by, carrying a basket of yams from her farm. She noticed the thin, weary man leaning against a tree, his head down, his body weak. Something about him made her stop. Perhaps it was the way his eyes held silent desperation, or maybe it was because she knew the pain of struggling alone. Without a second thought, she walked up to him and handed him a piece of roasted yam from her basket. "Eat," she said softly. Curo hesitated. He looked at her, then at the food, unsure if he should accept. But hunger left him no choice. He took the yam, nodding in gratitude before devouring it like a man who hadn't eaten in days. "Where are you from?" Elaki asked, watching him closely. "Zubalo," he answered between bites. "But I have nothing left there." Elaki saw the truth in his eyes. He was not just passing through. He was searching for something, maybe a new beginning, maybe a place to belong. She thought of her own lonely life, of the empty space in her hut that once belonged to her father. Perhaps, just perhaps, she could help. "You can stay with me for now," she said, surprising even herself with the words. "I have a small farm. I can't pay you, but if you help me with the work, there will always be food to eat and a roof over your head." Curo looked at her, stunned by her kindness. No one had ever offered him something without asking for anything in return. He had known hunger, rejection, and hardship, but never generosity. Slowly, he nodded. "Thank you," he whispered. Elaki smiled, leading him to her home. That night, for the first time in a long time, Curo slept under a roof, his stomach full, his heart lighter. He didn't know it yet, but this small act of kindness would change both their lives forever. Elaki had given him food, shelter, and a purpose, and in return, she had unknowingly handed him the power to break her heart in ways she never imagined. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Curo stayed with Elaki, working beside her on the farm from dawn till dusk. He was not the strongest worker, but he tried, and that was enough for Elaki. Slowly, she began to open her heart to him. He would crack small jokes while they worked, and Elaki would laugh, a soft, sweet laugh that Curo started to love hearing. In the quiet of the evenings, they would sit under the stars, sharing stories, dreams, and silent smiles. Curo began to speak of his ambitions. He said he didn't want to work on a farm forever. He dreamed of starting a small cassava trading business, buying and selling across the neighboring villages. Elaki listened closely, her heart full of hope for him. She admired his dreams and believed in his potential, even when others still looked at him as nothing more than a lucky stranger. One evening, as they sat near the fire, Curo opened up more than ever before. He told her, "I want to make something of myself, Elaki. I want to be a man who can stand tall." Those words touched her deeply. She had never seen him just as a guest or a worker. She saw him as someone worth building a future with. Soon, their bond grew stronger. Elaki didn't even realize when love crept into her heart. It happened slowly, through shared laughter, shared meals, and the comfort of each other's presence. Before she knew it, she had fallen deeply in love with Curo. To her, he was no longer just a stranger. He was her hope, her partner, her future. When Curo said he wanted to start his business but had no money, Elaki didn't hesitate. She went into her small wooden box and brought out the only valuable things she had left: her late mother's gold earrings and a delicate necklace passed down through generations. Without thinking twice, she sold them in the nearby market. But that was not all. When the money from the jewelry wasn't enough, she made a heart-wrenching decision. She sold a portion of her father's land, the same land she had fought to keep alive after his death. Everyone in Tunda was shocked. Why would she give up everything for that man? They whispered. But Elaki didn't care. She believed in him. She believed in love. With the money, Curo bought cassava in bulk and began trading across villages. Elaki supported him every step of the way, packing goods, calculating profits, and staying up late to help with planning. It wasn't easy, but together they fought through the struggles. They didn't have much, but they had each other, and that was enough for Elaki. She never asked for anything in return. Her love was pure, her sacrifices deep. She thought they were building a life together, a future rooted in trust and shared dreams. But what she didn't know was that not all hearts love the same way. Some hearts only take and never give back. Curo's business began to grow faster than anyone expected. With the money Elaki had given him, he bought cassava in bulk and travelled from village to village, selling at good prices and making strong connections. Soon, people started to recognize him, not just as a trader, but as a smart businessman. The name Curo echoed across the Mokala region, and everyone wanted to buy from him. His profit doubled, then tripled. In just a short time, he moved from carrying goods on his head to hiring young men to carry them for him. He opened his first trading post in the nearby village of Curo, and when it succeeded, he opened another one in Daruka, then another in Noma. One after another, his business spread like wildfire. Curo now wore fine clothes, rode a strong horse, and even began attending council meetings with village elders and chiefs. They respected his growing wealth and influence, calling him the Cassava King. Elaki watched from the sideline, smiling with pride. She was happy for him, truly. She remembered the tired, hungry man who once leaned against a tree, and now here he was, a wealthy, respected figure among powerful men. She still worked hard on her small farm, but she felt her efforts had not been in vain. She believed their success was shared. that Kafuro's rise was their victory. Kafuro started talking about buying lands, building warehouses, and expanding to other regions. He even began sending gifts to the chiefs to earn more favors. People came from far to seek his advice, and some even brought their daughters, hoping to catch his eye. Still, Elaki trusted him. She believed their love was strong enough to withstand fame, wealth, and temptation. After all, she was the one who stood by him when he had nothing. She had given him everything: her time, her love, her wealth, and her future. But something had started to change in Kafuro. With every coin he earned, his heart grew colder. He became more distant, spending less time with Elaki. His words were fewer, his smiles faded. He began staying out longer, attending fancy events, drinking with new friends, and acting like a man who had forgotten where he came from. Elaki tried to understand. "He's just busy," she told herself. "He's building a future for us." She waited for him every evening, cooked his favorite meals, and hoped he'd come home with the same warmth in his eyes. But Kafuro was slipping away, slowly and silently. He was becoming a man she no longer recognized, a man blinded by power, praise, and pride. Still, Elaki held on, thinking the man she loved was still inside him somewhere. She didn't know that while she stood in the background with hope in her heart, Kafuro was already rewriting the story of his life. And in that new story, Elaki's name was starting to disappear. As Kafuro's riches grew, so did his pride. The man who once sat humbly beside Elaki, sharing roasted yam and dreams under the stars, now walked with his nose in the air. He began to act like a king, forgetting the roots that had once held him strong. His words changed, his tone sharpened, and his heart grew harder with every coin he earned. The once gentle voice that spoke of love and gratitude now spoke of class, status, and superiority. Kafuro no longer saw Elaki as the woman who had built him up. Instead, he saw her as a reminder of the past he wanted to erase. He started avoiding her, finding excuses to stay away from home. When he did come back, he was distant and cold. Elaki tried to talk to him, to ask what was wrong, but he would brush her off with a fake smile or an irritated sigh. One afternoon, Elaki brought food to his new trading post, hoping to surprise him, but instead, she heard him laughing loudly with his new business partners. "She's too simple," Kafuro said, not knowing Elaki was standing just outside. "She still smells of soil and farm sweat. How can a man of my class keep living with such a woman?" Elaki froze. Her heart dropped. Those words pierced deeper than any wound. The same simplicity he once admired in her, the same hard-working spirit that held them through tough times, was now what he used to insult her. She quietly walked away, tears falling down her cheeks, but she said nothing. She still hoped it was just the stress, just the pressure from his new life, but things only got worse. Kafuro began comparing her to the women he now spent time with, ladies from the city, dressed in silk and covered in jewelry. He started mocking Elaki's rough hands, her plain clothes, her village accent. "You don't belong in this life anymore," he told her one night, looking straight into her eyes. "I've outgrown you." Elaki stared at him, shocked. She had sold her dreams for his, given him everything she had, and now he stood in front of her, speaking as if she was nothing. Still, she remained calm. She didn't fight back, but her heart was slowly breaking, piece by piece. The villagers began to talk. Some pitied her, others mocked her. "Didn't we warn her?" they whispered. "She gave him everything, and now look at her, forgotten and insulted." But Elaki remained silent. She still held on to the hope that the man she once loved would return. She still prayed that he would remember her sacrifices, remember their journey. But pride is a poison, and it had already spread too deep into Kafuro's soul. He was no longer the man she had loved. He was now a stranger wearing the mask of success, too blind to see the very woman who had helped him rise. One quiet evening, Elaki waited by the door, just like she always did. She had cooked Kafuro's favorite meal, hoping he would come home early for once. But as the sun set and the night deepened, he still didn't return. She didn't know that far away, in the wealthy village of Kilala, a grand wedding was taking place. Music echoed through the hills, drums beat loud, and people danced in celebration. Not for Elaki, but for Kafuro and his new bride, Naomi, the daughter of the powerful Chief Balo. Kafuro had done the unthinkable. Without saying a single word to Elaki, without a goodbye or a note, he had secretly married another woman. Naomi was everything Elaki was not. Born into wealth, polished in city manners, dressed in glittering jewels, and backed by power. Curo had chosen status over loyalty, luxury over love, and worst of all, he left Elaki behind, like she never existed. News of the wedding spread quickly. By morning, it reached Tunda. Elaki stood frozen in disbelief as the whispers turned into loud talk. Curo has married a chief's daughter. He never loved that farm girl. She was just a stepping stone. The villagers looked at Elaki with pity, some even with scorn. Her heart was shattered, her spirit crushed. She couldn't understand how the man she had given everything to could betray her so cruelly. She ran to his trading post, hoping it was a lie. But there she found a servant, packing his things. "He won't return here," the man said coldly. "He now lives in Kilala with his new wife." That moment broke Elaki. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the way he erased her from his life, as if she meant nothing, as if their love had never existed, as if her sacrifices were just dust under his feet. Elaki walked back home, her eyes filled with tears, but she held her head high. She refused to let the village see her fall. Deep inside, her soul was bleeding, but outside, she remained calm. Days passed, but the pain didn't fade. The nights became longer, the silence heavier. The farm felt emptier than ever before. Every corner reminded her of him, of the man she had loved, the man who had now turned into a stranger with a golden ring on someone else's finger. But even in her heartbreak, Elaki didn't curse him. She didn't beg. She didn't chase him. Instead, she quietly gathered the broken pieces of her heart and carried them with silent strength. Curo had betrayed her trust, abandoned her love, and humiliated her in front of the world. But what he didn't know was that this betrayal would not be the end of Elaki's story. It would be the beginning of something far more powerful, because sometimes, when life breaks you the hardest, it's only preparing you for your greatest rise. After days of tears and silent pain, Elaki made a decision that changed her life forever. She packed her small bag, took one last look at her father's old farm, and left Tunda without telling anyone. There was nothing left for her in the village, only memories of betrayal and whispers of pity. Her heart was still heavy, but deep inside, a quiet flame had started to burn. She didn't know where she was going, but she knew she couldn't stay where her dreams had died. Elaki walked for hours, guided only by the wind and her silent prayers. One evening, as she rested under a baobab tree near a small stream, she met an old woman named Matali. The woman had kind eyes, a calming voice, and a presence that felt like peace itself. Matali noticed Elaki's sadness, but didn't ask questions. Instead, she simply offered her warm food and a place to stay. That night, Elaki cried in Matali's arms like a child, releasing all the pain she had held in her heart. Over time, Matali became more than just a helper. She became Elaki's teacher and healer. She taught her how to use herbs to cure illnesses, how to make natural oils and soaps, and how to run a small business. "You are stronger than you know," Matali would say, gently placing herbs in Elaki's hand. "Pain doesn't mean you are broken. It means you are ready to rise." Elaki listened. She learned. She worked hard. Every morning she woke before sunrise to collect herbs. She studied their uses, learned how to prepare healing mixtures, and slowly began selling them in nearby villages. Her confidence grew, and so did her dreams. She traveled to Yomgwe, a bustling town where people valued natural healing. There she set up her own stall in the marketplace. At first people were hesitant, but Elaki's gentle heart and knowledge won them over. Her herbs worked like magic, and her smile comforted the sick. Soon, people began to call her Mama Elaki, a name spoken with respect and admiration. Her stall grew into a shop, and her shop grew into a well-known herbal center. Elaki, the once forgotten farm girl, had now become a respected businesswoman. But it wasn't just about success. For Elaki, it was about finding herself again. Every coin she earned, every person she healed, every day she stood strong. It was all proof that she didn't need Curo to be whole. She had rebuilt her life with her own hands, step by step, leaf by leaf, strength by strength. What Curo saw as simplicity had become her power. What he called weakness had become her wisdom. Elaki no longer cried at night. She smiled, knowing that life had given her a second chance, and this time she was rising on her own terms. Elaki's name began to echo far beyond the streets of Yomgwe. What started as a small herbal stall had now turned into a full herbal empire. People from distant villages, towns, and even cities traveled just to meet her, to buy her healing herbs. or to seek her advice. Her shop grew into a large center with trained assistants, shelves full of natural remedies, and customers waiting in long lines every day. The same girl who once walked barefoot on her father's farm was now sitting in meetings with chiefs and traders, planning large-scale supplies and exports. Elaki didn't just stop at healing herbs. She expanded her knowledge, blending traditional remedies with new techniques. She introduced herbal teas, natural skincare products, healing oils, and even started teaching young women how to build their own businesses. Her center became a place of hope, healing, and empowerment. Women from broken homes, widows, young girls with shattered dreams, all found purpose under her roof. Elaki gave them work, taught them skills, and helped them believe in themselves again. She didn't want to rise alone. She wanted others to rise with her. Soon, people began to call her the Queen of Yomgwe, not because she wore gold or sat on a throne, but because she had earned respect, admiration, and love from everyone around her. Traders, elders, and even regional leaders came to seek her wisdom. Her name became a symbol of strength, resilience, and dignity. People admired not just her success, but the grace with which she carried her painful past and turned it into power. She started community projects, building wells, donating to schools, supporting orphaned children, and funding health clinics. Her influence reached places she had never even dreamed of. Journalists came to write about her story, her rise from nothing to greatness. Her story was told in songs, shared in village gatherings, and whispered in the hearts of many young girls as a tale of inspiration. But even with all the wealth and fame, Elaki remained humble. She still woke up early, tended to her herbs, and greeted every customer with a warm smile. She never let her success cloud her heart, and though many powerful men tried to win her love again, she stayed focused on her purpose. She had learned the hard way that love should never come at the cost of one's self-worth. Elaki's rise wasn't just a success story, it was a lesson that no betrayal can stop a woman who knows her strength. A reminder that when life burns your wings, you can still rise, stronger, wiser, and brighter than before. From a betrayed village girl to a celebrated queen of business, Elaki's journey was now a legacy, and the world watched in awe as the woman once abandoned became the woman everyone admired. As the years passed, Curo began to taste the bitter fruits of his own choices. At first, his life with Naomi seemed perfect: luxury, grand parties, and the feeling of power. But behind Naomi's sweet smile hid a dangerous ambition. She never truly loved Curo. She only loved what he had: his wealth, his influence, his name. Slowly, she began taking control of his businesses. She convinced him to put properties in her name, persuaded him to trust her with the accounts, and flattered him so cleverly that he didn't see the storm coming. While Curo was busy showing off his new status, Naomi was secretly making plans of her own. She siphoned his wealth little by little, made secret investments behind his back, and eventually, when everything was in her control, she vanished. One morning, Curo woke up to find the house empty, the bank accounts frozen, and his trusted employees gone. Naomi had fled, taking everything with her. No one knew where she had gone. She left no trace, no message, just a trail of destruction. Curo tried to fight back, but it was too late. His businesses crumbled, his debts piled up, and no one came to help him. The chiefs who once respected him now turned their backs. The traders he had once mocked refused to lend him a coin. The pride that once filled his chest was replaced by shame. Everything he had built with Elaki's sacrifices was gone, swallowed by greed and betrayal. With nowhere else to go, Curo returned to Tunda, but not as the proud man who once walked the village streets like a king. He returned with torn clothes, worn-out shoes, and empty hands. The villagers stared in shock as they saw the once powerful businessman begging for food. Some laughed behind his back, others whispered, "That's the man who threw away a diamond for a stone." Curo now sat by the same village paths where Elaki used to walk. He watched people pass by, hoping someone would drop a few coins. His eyes, once full of pride, were now heavy with regret. He thought of Elaki every single day, how she had loved him, how she had stood by him, how she had given up everything for his dreams. And now, all he had left were memories and mistakes. He realized too late that true wealth wasn't in money or fame. It was in loyalty, love, and gratitude. He had traded gold for glitter, and now he had nothing. Every moment in Tunda was a reminder of what he had lost. Not just riches, but a woman who had truly loved him. Curo was no longer a man of power. He was a living lesson, a fallen star who had once soared high, but crashed due to pride and betrayal. One quiet afternoon, as the sun cast a golden glow over the bustling streets of Yomwe, a weak and tired figure slowly approached Elaki's herbal center. It was Curo. His clothes were worn out, his face was covered in dust, and his eyes held nothing but regret and pain. He stood at the entrance, unsure whether he should walk in or turn away. The proud man who once looked down on Elaki was now standing at her doorstep, begging for mercy. When Elaki saw him, there was a moment of silence. People around her gasped, recognizing the man who had betrayed her years ago. Some expected her to scream, to send him away in anger, but Elaki simply walked up to him, calm and composed. Curo dropped to his knees, tears in his eyes, and said, "Elaki, please, I've lost everything. Help me. Forgive me." His voice trembled, his hands shook, and his pride was nowhere to be found. Elaki looked at him, not with hatred, but with the calm strength of a woman who had healed her wounds long ago. She remembered the days she had cried for him, the pain she endured, the humiliation she faced, but she also remembered how she rose, how she turned her pain into purpose, and how she built a life far better than what she had ever imagined with him. She helped him to his feet and offered him water. The villagers gathered around, watching closely. Everyone waited to hear what she would say. Elaki looked at him and said gently, "I forgave you a long time ago, Curo, not for your sake, but for my peace. But I will never forget what you did. You threw away love, and now you are left with nothing." Curo broke down in tears. He had hoped for kindness, but he never expected such grace from the woman he had hurt so deeply. Elaki did not give him money or invite him into her life again. Instead, she gave him something far more powerful, a lesson, a reminder that true love should never be taken for granted, and that betrayal always comes with a price. She turned and walked away, her head held high, while Curo stood there, crushed by the weight of his own mistakes. The villagers cheered for Elaki, not just for her success, but for the dignity with which she handled the moment. Her story became even more powerful that day, spreading across villages as a tale of strength, wisdom, and self-respect. Elaki didn't need revenge. Her growth, her success, and her grace were enough. Curo walked away, carrying his shame like a heavy burden, while Elaki remained a shining symbol of courage and dignity, a true queen, not of royalty, but of resilience. If this story touched your heart, take a moment to reflect. How many times do we give our all to someone, only to be betrayed? Yet, the true strength lies not in revenge, but in rising above the pain. Just like Elaki did, she gave everything, her love, her dreams, her sacrifices. But when she was broken, she didn't stay down. She turned her pain into power and her tears into triumph. Let Elaki's journey remind us all that no matter how badly we're hurt, we can rebuild, we can rise, we can shine brighter than ever before. And those who took us for granted, they will one day witness the strength they never believed we had. If you've ever been in Elaki's shoes, if you've ever loved, lost, or been betrayed, this story is for you. Don't let pain define you. Let it shape you into something stronger. Please, if this story moved you, like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to our channel for more powerful African tales that inspire the soul and warm the heart. Your support means everything to us. Together, we can spread more stories of courage, healing, and inner strength. Thank you for watching. Stay strong, stay kind, and never forget your worth.